Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's a pleasure to see you're here. My name is Sabrina, and I'm pleased to introduce you to this webinar, which is Boosting Student Engagement with Game-Based Language Learning Activities. From Clever Languages, it's a pleasure for us to introduce you to new development activities. That being said, I'd love to introduce my colleague Ryan, who will be introducing our speaker of today.
Thank you, Sabrina. I'm here in our Chicago headquarters. I'm with Cutler Languages. I'm a sales consultant, and I kind of specialize in the German K-12. And it's a pleasure to be here with Heidi. It's just amazing to be working with teachers from all around the country and all around the world, and to be connecting with experts and everyone who wants to grow in their professional development. And that's why we're here, right, for a webinar tonight to learn and to grow and to collaborate. And just kind of on a personal note, Heidi's an inspiration. You know, before I jump into her official bio, it's just exciting to see someone with so much expertise and so much value to bring, and who's so willing to share it with the world. So that's why I'm excited to be here. And I'll jump into who she is and what she's done. She's taught all levels of German, from the high school level, college level, for over 20 years. And she's an English teacher currently, additionally, at the Libertyville High School, as well as an instructional coach. And she's a member of the Goethe Institute coaching team. She's particularly proud of having started a dual credit partnership with the College of Lake County, and that offers her 3rd and 4th level high school classes for transferable college credit there. And as an international presenter with the AATG GEM, so GEM stands for German Educator Multiplier, she works to promote and support U.S. German teachers and programs through mindful and relevant PD. And she's a past president of the North Illinois AATG chapter and the 2nd vice president for the ICTFL, so that's Illinois Council for Teaching in Foreign Languages. And most recently and most notably, she's the 2022 ICTFL Teacher of the Year. So let's give it up for Heidi Lechner and give her a warm welcome as our presenter tonight. Thanks, Heidi.
All right, thank you, Ryan. And thank you, Sabrina, for that nice intro. Well, let's get this party started with a kids game. Just like you would start your class, you got to catch their attention as they come in. Just quickly, let's see what languages are out there, right? I know there's 9 differences between the 2 photos, but I don't know, see how many you can get in the next 10 seconds. Ryan will keep track. Well, we'll give you 20. I'm terrible at wait time, in case you're wondering. I go a little fast.
I'm a visual. I'm going to do a slow countdown.
Do a visual, and we'll see what languages we have, and it's kind of fun. I do use a lot of things from children's websites and elementary schools that are all free or moderately priced from Germany. It's a great, it's an authentic resource right there. So just Google for whatever country for your language. This one is free. This is from rätseldino.de, and they have riddles, and they have games, and they have little searches and puzzles, and just little things you could do in the passing period as the kids come in. So in the chat, what do you see, Ryan? How many languages?
I'm seeing it all. We did our countdown, and it's just like a waterfall. It's racing down.
Okay.
We've got everything from the different stars and flowers. It seems like we've got some eagle eyes here.
All right, well, here's the answer key in case you're wondering. So just during January, I came back from break and I said, all right, we got to do a little something as kids come in. So I cut and paste these, put them on the overhead, and they get into it. Some of them come right in the room and they're drawing on the board. And these are high school kids. I do teach high school level, 9 through 12, little extra about me, all levels of German. I taught college for 9 years. I've taught little kids. I'm all over the place. So what I'm going to talk about today is definitely for any level. It maybe have to be adapted, but games and movement work from, we'll say the whole 0 to 99, like it says on your box of Monopoly box, right? Everybody loves to get up and move and use their brain and stretch it in different ways. So what are we going to see today? I'm going to talk about why, very briefly. That's one slide. Got to have a little research in there. I'm going to talk just for a few minutes about how to target activities. I am an instructional coach. I work with teachers from all over the building, so all different disciplines. And not all the teachers teach like me, and that's okay. And so I will share a wide variety of resources that might suit you, might not suit you, but we'll find something that works for you. And then I have, I don't know, what do we think, Brian? Maybe 30 examples I'll run through. Some are old, some are new, some are made up, some are, they're all over the place, but hopefully you find something tonight that you can use tomorrow. So why games? Movement, fun, because why not? That's what everyone loves. That's what you do in your free time and you move towards. So school should not be boring. School should be an engaging place for kids to learn and want to be, in my opinion. We are coming off a pandemic. It's a rough time. It is February. My students are barely holding on by a thread. So I've been doing a lot of extra engaging and motion-based activities in my class. It definitely helps with teamwork and building community and trust, because you want the kids to speak a language, but they need to trust you that it's okay. They need to trust each other. So those are my rationale. I told you, short research. All right, let's see who you are. On my left, number 1, I have the quietly placed students who are sitting and doing their work in rows and are very academically focused. Are you that person, or are you number 2, where you love chaos and you love movement and you want the kids working in groups? Let's just see what we got. And Ryan, can you do a quick more 1 or 2? It doesn't matter, but I'm always curious. Ryan, you're muted.
Thanks, Heidi. I'm seeing mostly 2s, a few 1s that like their order and structure, and a couple even 1.5s that have a little bit of balance between the 2.
And that's good. There are days that I want 1, but I generally have a number 2.
Oh
and
man, someone said 3.
And 3. I love that. Yeah,
That's
I always
extreme.
tell people my teacher superpower is tuning people out, like tuning the students out when they're off task or just having fun. So I can really focus on what I need to. That is cute, number 3. And this one, I have colleagues, and I also work with German teachers all over the country. So I know, I have friends who unfortunately have 50 kids, knee in one classroom built for 30 people. And this is America. We know we're a wide range of classes. Number 2, you may have this most beautiful open space. You may be deskless like they are in the photo. I'm only asking, not because it matters for what's right, because nothing's right. You get what you get. But I want you to be able to see when I'm talking through different activities, what might work for you versus not. So again,
looks
Ryan,
like there's a greater range here. A lot of 1s and 2s, some of that both 1.5s. So it looks like there's, some folks that are packed in like sardines, others have a little flexible seating options.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you. So hopefully we find something that appeals to all of you. I'm between. Some years I have 30, I have packed, but I still get them up and moving, but it's controlled, and I'll talk to you about how I do that. Other years I have really small classes, and we also have the luxury. We have 2 outdoor spaces at our school, which are basically a courtyard, but we call it a classroom. And, so I use all parts of the school. I use the hallways, and I make everything work. So the administration is used to having me tramp all over the front halls with my students. Okay, so when we're thinking about what game or what activity you're going to level up, you have to have some things in mind, like your goal. Are you trying to build community? Are you practicing vocabulary? Is this an interpretive assignment? I do know people that say, oh, I only play games for a test review. And that's perfectly fine. But my response is, why can't you do it every day? If the kids love that one day, which they do, which is only for test review, why don't you stretch that out and incorporate more activities that engage students to be a regular part of your classroom? So that's my challenge to those teachers. But right, we do have problems such as class size, classroom space, resources. I'm going to give you a lot of ideas that don't cost money. Teacher enjoyment, I wrote in there. I love some activities that the kids hate and vice versa. And if you are not invested in something, just like curriculum, if you hate it, you're not really going to come across as wanting to teach it. Energy level, I'll show you some that are really high level and others that I have one colleague who She is the opposite of me, a fantastic teacher, and she just wants more sedate ways to engage the students. So I've been working with her, and we have a lot of fun working off each other. I wrote inclusion in CAP this time because I've been teaching 30 years, and I use fly swatter as my example. Everybody has the matamoscas, and they're great. But if you have 30 kids in a class, and 2 kids are up at the board with the matamoscas, with the Fliegenklatscher, then what are the 28 doing? They're not paying attention. They're sitting there on their phones. They're, fading out. We want to do things that incorporate the entire class. Everybody should be doing something at the same time and learning at the same time. Okay, so right now, like I would use fly swatter as an a stations activity where maybe there's 4 kids, so it'll be 2 against 2, and then myself or my student teacher would be calling out words. Yeah, then everybody else is doing different activities. So don't throw away the Fliegenklatscher. It's just a different way to think about things. All right, I have 45-minute periods. I start class, as you just saw, right in passing period. The kids come in, there's something going on. You have to be very clear because you don't want to let's see a fun, if you're playing bingo, I don't know. You don't want it to go on forever. You need to have set times where the kids are used to, okay, we're going to play a game every day. It's not the entire period. They have to be clear of the ramifications and the timing and the purpose and the goal. And all these things make for smooth transitions. I move my furniture all the time. I give them supports. I give them chat mats. There's a lot you can do to just get them used to the idea of, today we're going to have 3 different seating arrangements, and we're going to have 4 different transitions. There are 30 of you, and yes, it will all go smoothly. So tell yourself that, because it can happen. All right, you have enough of me. Here's one example just to show you what I'm talking about, so you can just play with, all right, what am I going to do for all these activities, whether I like them or not? Running dictation. And again, I have been teaching almost 30 years. There's probably some novice teachers out there, which is fantastic. You may never have heard of these things that I've been using for ages. And the veteran teachers, sorry if I have nothing new for you, but I'm hoping you'll see a few things in here today. So running dictation has been around for ages, and it is exactly that. There is running involved, and the kids are memorizing phrases and sentences and dictating to a partner. So usually I hang up posters in the hall with 1 or 2 sentences, and it can be done at any level, college too. And so in groups of, we'll say 4, 3 or 4, one person runs to the hall, memorizes the sign, runs back, and then dictates. And then the scribe has to write down what they hear. They then, and of course, this takes multiple times. Students can't memorize anything. They're under pressure. They have to go back and forth. So there's a lot of running, a lot of fun, a lot of cheering. And then once the one paper's finished, they go to the next person who draws a picture that represents the sentence to show understanding. So we do this for a few rounds, and then the kids are sitting there and you realize, oh, okay, yeah, they think they're comfortable. And then we go double time. So then we have 2 students running, 2 students who are scribes and drawing at the same time. And as you can imagine, it gets a little noisy, but I don't do this frequently, maybe for once or twice a semester. So think about, are you that type of teacher that would love this activity where the kids are bumping each other and the boys are shoving in the hallways? Or is it just too much for you? In which case you can do a sitting running dictation, which probably exists. I've never done it, but email me later and we will figure one out for you. Okay, so this webinar was sponsored by Colette, and they allowed me to peruse a whole bunch of books. I've been teaching for a while, worked with Colette. They've been around longer than I have. And so I chose the book. Oh, you can't see me with my background. All right, well, it's up there on the screen. 55 communicative Spiele, obviously for German. This one really was fantastic when I was looking through it because it has entire pages built with conversational phrases. For instance, for asking for a favor, it really condenses them, and then it gives a bunch of activities, and then it'll have a page of conversational phrases for small talk. So it's very structured. The activities, I'm going to show you a few throughout the webinar today. Very engaging. I've tested them out with my students and we have a lot of fun with them. So German teachers, I would highly recommend this one. Lots of good things you can pull out with no prep, which is the big key. Okay, so a lot of these are no prep. I should also say that. Okay, here we go. So what I've done is I'm going to give you a whole bunch of activities, but first I'd like to point out what a lot of you are probably using or heard about. They've been very popular the last few years. Bluekit, Gimkit, Quizlet Live. They are paid products, but you can usually use a few games for free. I use them a lot of times as a class starter just because it's easy to get them going. In the passing period, kids log in, they already get their vocab lists out, their resources, and they're ready to go when the bell rings. Some things that I do differently. Every Monday, Quizlet Live is my new seating chart. I play 5 games, randomize them, shuffle the teams, and on the 5th one, kids have to go find a different table with their new groups. It is obviously not intentional seating, but every week, kids love to wait and see what happens. And there's, if any of the cooks out there, your Trinity, I believe it's called, is the onion, celery, and carrot. Am I right, Ryan? I don't know. Well, my Trinity is Pictionary, charades, and taboo. Been around forever. I'm going to show you different variations, but I use Quizlet since I don't have a textbook to curate all my vocab, and I can use these two as every day for all levels. Okay, so those are digital. I just want to point them out. And for, oh, Ryan, maybe
Yep. Yeah, I want to do a quick pause. Just, I know we initially said, save all your Q&A to the end, but since we're going to be doing these sort of groups of, digital, paper, body focused, if there are any sort of digital specific questions that you want to throw now, it'd be a great time to just kind of have some conversation, and we'll just keep an eye in the chat and see if we can bring any of those digital questions to the fore. So then we can kind of move on from digital, then move on to other categories, and then we'll have plenty of kind of general Q&A or miscellaneous Q&A at the end. But I'll just see if there's any chat about digital before we move on to the next category.
I'd also point out, Ryan, I should have said that for a lot of college colleagues are still online and offering online courses. I have 5 of my favorite lockdown, when we taught online, activities that come at the end of the presentation. So if you're interested in digital only, I have 5 really fun ones to wind us down.
Great. Yeah, just no questions yet, but just a lot of love for Gimkit and Kahoot. Sounds like there's a lot of digital fans out there.
There are. I mean, my colleagues, Snowball is the big, Snowbrawl, excuse me, is the big one out there these days. The kids love that. All right. So as Ryan said, I'm going to chunk these into categories. So we're going to do 5 activities and then explain, give examples, and then we can pause briefly. So if you have any pressing questions in between, we can do that. All right. So I'm starting off really basic, 5 activities with a piece of paper. Feel free to Google as we go and see how these work as I'm explaining, unless you're cooking dinner or doing something while you're listening to me. By the way, if you haven't given a webinar, I'm staring at my screen, myself and Ryan. I can't see any of you. So forgive me if I sound manic. I'm just kind of talking to the 2 of us right now. Okay, so again, I've used all these. They are you can use them with a wide variety of activities, but I'm giving you sample ideas for all of them. Snowball fight, I did the other day, flying Pictionary. You can call things whatever you want and make the kids really excited. We're playing flying Pictionary today, and get all excited. And basically you give them a piece of paper and you can say, take out your vocab list and draw 5 pictures on your piece of paper. Give out the markers, make it pretty, write your name on top, and then you say, now crumble your paper. And then you have your snowball, and then you say, for 20 seconds, we're gonna have a snowball fight. Everyone circle in the middle, and then, give it 20 seconds, and they're throwing snowballs. Yes, even seniors, I've seen this done in college, so don't think it's too juvenile for anyone. And then they pick up a piece of paper at the end, and they have to write the word. right? And write the answer. And then on the back side, they can do another 5. I have them go and find the person who drew it and confirm, like, you make it a 5-minute activity out of one piece of paper. I haven't done this in years, and I was thinking about it for this presentation, and I tried it with some classes, and I have a student teacher who said, I've never seen anything like that. So again, like I said, veteran teachers versus novice, use what you may. Paper airplanes. Again, it's February. We need to just make things a little more exciting. How about for your next interpersonal writing, for your AP level, you put it on a piece of paper, and then this is the interpretive part. You find instructions for making a paper airplane. And it's kind of curious, when I search them up in German, they have slightly variations in how they make their paper airplanes from how I learned as a kid. So the kids get really excited about that. YouTube videos in your target language, and they get really excited about making the paper airplanes. In the picture you can see, I did this this year with a class. I took them out in the hall and we had a contest. So the boy in the middle won. He had the farthest airplane, but then they pick up another one, and then they work on, answering the email. I don't even remember at the time, but you can write questions. You can do whatever with them. It's just, it takes a few seconds, gets them engaged, a few minutes, and then, gets them up and moving. Why not? All right, Himmel and Hölle, as it's called in German, fortune teller, coup de catchers. I have a really cool one I found online yesterday. I was looking around for a German one, and this one is called Erzähl mir von dir. Ryan, I can't do this with the background. Anyway, for German 1, this is just a draft I found online. Was isst du am liebsten? What do you like to eat the most? Was spielst du besonders gerne? What do you most like to play? So in the middle, if you haven't played these in years, you have all the questions. So you can find them pre-printed. The kids are up and moving, they're walking around. Well, back up. First, you have to give directions on how to fold these. That may take a while, and so that's part of the February. We're granting ourselves a little extra time for folding. When the paper airplane doesn't go right, it may take a few more minutes, or the fortune teller, you may have to have the kid over here who's stuck help them, but it's all part of the fun. And again, you're using hopefully your target language for the instructions or a YouTube video. So anyway, so leveling up, I've done this for reading analysis. I know there's a lot of CI fans out there who are reading novels all the time, which is amazing, and getting kids really excited about reading. Well, why don't you use the inside? And obviously you'd write it in your target language, unless maybe you want novice, you want more of a understanding, and then they can produce in German, Spanish, French, whatever. Make a text to self connection you can write on the inside, or describe 3 physical traits of the protagonist, right? These are all strategies that we take from reading comprehension in English class, and we use in our classes. So anyway, you can Google them in your language and find all sorts of ideas. That's a big hit, by the way. I've used that one a lot. Hot dog booklet. Raise your hand, even though I can't see you, if you have seen your hot dog booklet in use. These things are like gold, all right? You take one piece of paper and you make the kids love making them too. You make your hot dog folds, you make your hamburger fold. I'm fading in and out. You make right, and you make one little, you don't even need scissors, you just rip it down the middle. And then you get this magical 6-page booklet, right? It has 6 little pages. You can do anything with it. This can be writing your interpersonal phrases that you want to use in your next conference. You can plot diagram a novel. What did I say? You can draw vocabulary. You can do it this way. Sky's the limit, people. I don't know. It's just a lot of fun. Give them a colored piece of paper to choose, something different. And it's just a different way. Oh, by the way, the makingbooks.com also has Spanish. So I put that up there. And I haven't found the German, but that's okay. The kids once in a while, they're okay with the English pictures, because folding and origami is always something. This one, Oh my goodness. So this is from Clet, and I tried this for Valentine's Day as an activity. And as you can see, there's a little, I can't find the page. So you get a little heart origami. Well, I gotta say, this is, Ryan, probably the most complicated origami my kids have done in years.
Mm-hmm.
And the activity, I think, would really appeal to B1, B2 learners, because Clet wants you to work in groups, write your letter to the next group, and then one person at a time goes to the teacher, hears the directions, and goes back and repeats it, and then the group has to figure out what the directions are. Well, I don't know. In my lower level classes, this would take the entire period, but I just gave them this directions and they had to figure it out. I actually told my Spanish colleague about it. He found it online, an easy video in Spanish, and his kids were having a lot more fun because it was easier. Anyway, we wrote compliment letters to each other on
Love that.
Valentine's
I love
Day.
they did it on Valentine's Day. You know, we're on the 16th now. It's not too late, even if you're watching this weeks or months from now. You know, there's always an occasion.
There is, and giving compliments are always, great. So anyway, that was a really fun one. Sometimes good, productive struggle, they call it. Okay, any quick questions about our origami one-page papers?
I haven't seen as many questions about our paper activities, but tons of, almost adding to your own bullet points of ideas, things they love. Not that we're ignoring that, but, as people are watching and listening and reading the chat, just want to let you know there's a lot of great ideas. Okay, can you give there's one question from Akira. Can you give a recommendation for regular verb games in Spanish? I'm not sure we have as much, in the Spanish world, but we can do a little bit of research and get back to you, Akira.
Well, I'm glad you're having conversations out there. I do that when I attend webinars because it's great just that a lot of this is being with other people and professional development and getting ideas from others. So please flood the chat with other add-ons, and I'll go back and look at those too, because I'm always looking for new ideas. Like I said, so the next 5 are using your body as an answer. These are really movement activities. And there's 2 things that I try to do every single day in my class. I try to address each kid by name and welcome them, or have a one-line conversation with them, because some kids don't actually get recognized during the day. So they hear their name and they have to get up and move. That is my one big thing. It is built into every lesson plan, is that at least one activity they have to move a little bit. So these are my solutions. The human bar graph. I have to admit, this picture was posed the other day because I did the human bar graph in the fall and I didn't have any photos. But you post, and you can't even see. You either write on the board, I wrote ABC, or you post the papers A, B, C, D, E. And let's say you're reviewing for your AP multiple choice section, which is right now what everybody's focused on, right? The very difficult, yes, not so engaging multiple choice section. Well, why don't you make it engaging? Have kids line up with their answers so they have their papers and say, okay, number 3, what'd you get? And they run and line up in front of whatever letter they got. And again, this is where they trust you, that no one's laughing because, Gunter is standing by himself in A, and that's okay, because he's going to explain while he's standing there why he's the only person standing in that line. And you can visibly see, okay, everybody got this one. Or like here, where the kids just lined up in 3 even groups, that question nobody got. So what do I have to talk about? So it's going over the same multiple choice questions, but in a much more engaging and interactive way. All right, this one is I use a lot. Stand or squat, true, false. This is just a simple formative. So this is sometimes out the door. Okay, here's 3 statements about today, true or false, because you don't even have to write it or prep it or plan it. Come up with 3 things that you want to know. If this could be, like you said, about your verb question, come up with, 3 sentences using the verbs that you learned today. And is stand if it's true with your hands in the air, or squat on the floor if it's false. And you read them fast and kids don't have time to look around. They have to just go up or down, and you get a visual. And they're always embarrassed, but that's okay, they do it anyway. Charades, I told you I'm coming back to it. This photo was taken in my last unit for my German 4, my most advanced students. And the boy on the floor, which I don't know if you can identify, he is representing a Todesstreifen, which is the death strip in East Germany, the former wall, Berlin Wall, and the wall through East and West Germany. And that, for some reason, laying on the floor with your arm in the air was his representation. So it's not easy to do Pictionary, charades, or taboo, which is circumlocution. So I would, if you think that they're too juvenile, I would rethink that. Like, the kids really sometimes struggle because as your language gets higher, you have these really complex ideas, and now you have to figure out how to express them in very minimalistic terms. So anyway, I told my student Patrick there he was going to be in my webinar. I put him in our newsletter. Anyway, charades, ton of fun. And there he is again. This was a posed picture because, again, how often do you take pictures at the end of class of a formative? I think everybody has probably at some point seen Fist to 5, right? And this is very nice because it's a little anonymous, especially when we're talking to 50 kids in your class and you don't want to pull out a Google form. You don't want to do a poll everywhere. You just want a quick check. Who understood what today? Fist to 5. And then you can see by the number of fingers. And it's, I said anonymous because if your hand is on your chest here, not everybody around you can see. So that's widely used. But again, I still find teachers that don't know about it. So hopefully I helped someone there. Interpretive dance is what I call it. In German, it's a Bewegungsspiel. And again, these are taken directly from children's websites. So the one you see here is Dornröschen, which is Sleeping Beauty. And there is a well-known song, Dornröschen war ein schönes Kind, schönes Kind, schönes Kind. And we play it a lot in class as a, you know, over the week. So the kids are used to the song. We have a lot of music in our class anyway, but so they've heard the lyrics and they've heard the music. Well, and then we've read the story. So then I give them, it's an interpretive reading. I give them directions. So the first little screenshot I have there, alle Kinder bilden einen Kreis, they have to then, in their small groups, they get a copy of the directions and they have to do the motions that apply to the song. So the first step is all children have to make a circle. And then they have to figure out the different characters and they do it. And so this is, I do have a video of a class, which I show for multiple years too, because there's always siblings and they see, but I got in trouble last year. Too many kids came back, Frau Lechner, you can't show that video, that's embarrassing. So anyway, I'll share it with you if you want, email me. But it's so cute to see 18-year-olds dancing around, pretending to kiss, you know, Sleeping Beauty, and they just giggle and have a lot of fun. So in German, we have quite a few of those. I don't know, maybe your other language is interpretive reading, just a different fun way to read and understand. Okay, Ryan, I'll take a quick break. Any ideas, comments?
Yeah, and thank you, Asira. I apologize if I mispronounced your name earlier. And Heidi, thank you for kind of circling back to your questions about, you know, regular verbs, really for any topic and any sort of category of games. You can tie in, you know, the true, false. You can try in different ways to bring in the paper and the body activities. We had a mention from Mauricio about TPR, this total physical response, how you know, so many of us are kinesthetic learners and we really engage with the material and remember it better and can apply it and internalize it when our full body is engaged. And I'm looking for more questions, but it's more so been just a lot of kudos and great ideas. So if you're ready, we'll jump onto the dice category.
Sounds good. All right, this one, you may have to go to the dollar store and shell out a few dollars for dice, but they're pretty cheap. I bought a set on Amazon in pretty colors that I use. I'm sure all of you have your own games for using dice. Kids love it. You can put them in the little, I got this as teacher tip years ago, little Tupperware, also at the dollar store. So it doesn't go anywhere, it just shakes in the Tupperware. Well, I got to tell you, I tried that for a while. The kids just peel the top off. They want the dice to go flying. That's half the fun. So that's my chaos. I'm classroom 2.5, 3, like my friend out there. Anyway, here we go. I need a favor. This really struck me when I was reading through my book from Klett, the Communicative Spiele. German, like many languages, has a formal and an informal voice. I am strictly informal until we get to like an AP level where you're forced for the exam to write in both. It's too much, right? I've cut a lot from the curriculum over the years. Pandemic kind of killed us in terms of how much can you actually get through. So I slow it all down myself. This activity is really interesting. You Würfel, right? You have your dice, and if you don't speak German, each number corresponds to a person who is a colleague, a friend, a secretary, son or daughter, neighbor, or brother, sister. So in Germany, your colleague, a secretary, neighbor are all going to be using formal voice, and the rest would be informal. And then they give you scenarios where, and they also give you the conversational phrases that you need. So there's a whole nice sheet you can copy. The kids are practicing the conversational phrases with stems. And then they roll a dice. And let's say the first one is, oh, you need someone to drive you to the airport. So you need to ask them a favor. Well, imagine it's your secretary. Okay, so then you have to use formal and you have to guide the conversation in a nice way. Or the next one is, you would like that someone wakes you up at 4 a.m. tomorrow. How are you going to explain that to a neighbor? So they're kind of silly, and there's definitely a lot of circumlocution and talking in there. But this one, it was definitely, I would use more in the upper levels to really get through to, or I guess novice to, the difference between formal and informal. Those who are reading experts, please don't shoot the messenger for me. Popcorn reading is out. I know that. I can't say it's harmful, even though they say it's harmful and not to be used. Well, but I have to do something. We're reading fairy tales this month in level 3, and everybody's out of control. So I came up with reading with voices. So they get 1 dice with how many sentences, 1 through 6. And the second one is what type of voice. So for this fairy tale, if you roll a 1, you have to read like an evil fairy. Or number 3, read like a prince. Number 4, read like a frog. Number 5 is read with a very high voice. And 6, read very slowly. Because you have to have it in there, because you have the annoying boy in your class who is going to read super, super slowly, which isn't a bad thing, because then the other kids are actually looking for the answers to the text while they're doing it. I have to tell you, even though this was super ridiculous, they were so engaged. They really were looking for the answers, and we did it with different silly voices. I changed it for every fairy tale. So that was a big hit, gotta say. Attendance questions it's just a title that a lot of people use for either taking attendance, where you ask, as you say their name, you ask them the question of the day, or it's a check-in where you can have, for instance, would you rather? You have 6 different questions on the board, and then you have each one corresponding to a different number on your dice, and then you could have the kids as a little check-in at the start of class, roll them around, and that's all. And this or that, and would you rather, if you have never Googled in your language, there are thousands, and they're for school, they're for college level, they're for, I don't know, they have all different categories. So you don't have to think of your own, is all I'm saying. A lot of stuff is out there, as long as you have the idea. Okay, brain breaks. I can do a whole webinar for you, Ryan, on brain breaks, or as I tell my students, my class is a brain break. This one I found just Googling for some ideas, because I haven't used one in a while, but eduki.de, if you are a German teacher, fabulous resources. I actually pay a few dollars to use some of their things. But so this one would be, if you roll a 2, you have to run and touch each of the walls. Now think about, even in your sophomore class, if you have a lot of crazy kids after lunch who are, want to burn off some energy, start off with class with the little kids activity. And if they roll a 2 and then they have to go touch all 4 walls, they get it, everything out for a minute, and then they go back. So anyway, lots of different ways to use dice. Those are just some different ones that I have used over the years.
Thanks, Heidi. Just a little bit about my background. I was a kindergarten teacher for a while, and I just loved using dice, especially I saw people mentioning the foam dice are worth the investment. You know, a little less noise, you know, a little less dangerous if they fling across the classroom. You know, even the big fuzzy ones can be a lot of fun. And I think also that idea of like having options, you know, differentiation is always a hit, you know, with teachers and students. And that number of 6 seems to be manageable for teacher and student. You know, you can kind of think of 6 things off the top of your head. And for the student who's choosing, it's not too many. You know, if it's like a bingo board, sometimes 25 can be overwhelming. So it seems like for me, that number of 6 works really well with dice and is manageable on both sides. I'm just looking to see if there's any new questions about the dice category. And for everyone who's asking about the presentation and the slides, we can share those. So the presentation itself, this webinar is being recorded, and the following week we're going to have it on our website. So anybody can jump on there and take a look and review the recording and share it with folks who couldn't make it. And with the slides, we'll be able to share those slides as well, right, Heidi?
It's up to Clint, I believe.
Yeah.
There was told, yeah, they get sent out as PDF to registrants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. And yeah, I do agree. Student choice, as you can tell, it's also part of my thing. And yes, for adapting, all of these can be adapted, like I said, from K through 16. You just have to figure out, you know, little tweaks. And so probably in the chat, you've got a lot of different ideas. Okay, speaking activities. My big focus is interpersonal speaking, because when you go to Berlin and you ask for a hotel room, they're not going to hand you a pen and ask for a 250-word essay. They're going to right away ask you multiple questions that you have to identify. That's what I tell my students anyway. So here's some just, I don't know, interactive ways that I get them to talk. Talking footprints. I don't know if I've been using these for a lot of film units over the years. It's just something, you know, template off the internet, a picture, and they put a little text box in it, and you write all the characters, and then you just print out on pieces of paper, and you lay them out with 2 people together. So for instance, Harry Potter, I did a presentation a few years ago using that as a template. So if you have Harry Potter on one, Hermione Granger on the other, or I'm blanking out on any others, you're filling in the blanks. Anyway, so if you have 10 different characters, you play them all around, lay them all around the room, and enough for whoever your students are. And then you practice from the eye perspective of this character to interact, to review the plot, or to talk about, hey, remember when, it's now 10 years later. So you're obviously using the past tense to review the situation, or have so you come up with different activities and scenarios, but it gets and then they have to switch partners. So sometimes they're the same, they're Harry Potter with 3 different characters. So they're thinking differently based on the movie, and it gets the kids really engaged. Freeze frame, Tableau, Standbild in German. Drama techniques are very well received in world language class. If you haven't taken any workshops or classes, I would definitely recommend those if they come across. So here's an example I did recently. Again, for a movie, I would say, this is from Ballon. If anybody recognizes it, a story of an East German family who fled in a hot air balloon. And you ask the students, they could be shy or they can be just volunteers, to mimic the people in the story. So you see the little blonde boy, if you can see that in the picture, and the boy in the Cubs is looking really sad, so he's mimicking him. And then you ask for kids, these are pre-viewing strategies for kids to come up and stand behind and guess what that person is saying, thinking, imagining. And so it's just kind of getting them into the mode of things, of what are they going to be seeing in this movie, for instance. So maybe you have questions on that later. Dinner party profile cards is another gem I found in the communicative Spiele. Each kid, I cut and pasted a few here, but everybody gets a card that says what you like to talk about and what you find completely boring. And then you tell the students, we're having a dinner party, and this is who you are, and you have to go mingle with all these new guests and have polite conversation. Well, they contradict each other. So you have to figure out, and yes, there are conversational phrases in the book to help you, but you have one person that just dying to talk about their garden, and the other person just can't stand gardening. And so you have these kids who are then mingling. I don't time this one, I just have them move around. And we were just laughing so much because some kids were very patient and others were like, Quatsch, just get out of my face, and moving on. And it was, just a different way to try to be off the cuff conversation. Rank the morality. Oh boy, this one is, more suited for upper levels because there are some topics in it. A woman has an affair with her husband, and she ends up running over a man while she's having the affair in a different part of the country, who loses his leg in the hospital. It's a crazy story with 6 characters, and they all have dubious morals. And at the end, you're listening to this story, the students, they have to rank the level of morality. So who would you say is the most moral to the least moral? So it's a one-time deal. There's only one story, but I can totally see adapting different stories in this. And she cheated, but this boy, the son, I don't remember, he got suspended from school for something. So you have all these scenarios. It's a debate, but it's a really fun way to do it. Maybe not for a more conservative school, but definitely for college level, that would be really fun. All right, what are we up to? Mystery object. All right, this was another one from the 55 communicative Spiele. You fill a bag with interesting objects, as it says in the directions. And as you reveal them, you have to discuss, the kids are working as a pro-contra, again, debate. We always trying to teach that. And one example they gave is you pull out a mitten, right? Knitted cold mitten. We're having a snowstorm here, by the way, but I know some of you are in warm climates. I'm very jealous. So anyway, imagine you're in a warm climate, South Africa, for instance, in this scenario, and you want to give an official gift of, handmade mittens. Why should this be given or not given? So they're creative, they're crazy, gets the kids excited. I really enjoyed, I know I'm going to try that some more. I've only done one of those. Okay.
All
Ryan?
right. Yeah, with our speaking activities, something that's been kind of a curiosity in the chat, especially from Mauricio, is about students who are shy or like having a hard time engaging if they're more introverted. How do you deal with students who are afraid to interact and afraid to just get talking and get started in that conversation when you have speaking activities?
Yeah, so I start Mauricio from day one, building up, and it's difficult if you've already had, you inherit them at year 3 or 4, but in starting at level 1, I make sure that they're comfortable knowing that even if they only use 1 or 2 words to express themselves and they're not perfect, that it's okay. I encourage all sorts of somebody mentioned TPR, gestures, and helping your partners. We work in cooperative learning groups all the time. So you have a very comfortable set of people who know that maybe you're shy and you're okay working with just 2 or 3 people. I don't do a lot of all group because that really hurts those really shy kids. And building, even if you're at level 4, go back and build the community so the kids trust each other more and they're more willing to take risks. Something that I tried a few years ago was a staring contest, and an entire whole class staring contest, because I tell the students we're learning to communicate, and you have to be able to look at the person and feel comfortable. So you start with the person in front of you in your group, and then whoever loses stands up and stands next to the person who lost or is winning over here. So now
That'll break the ice, yeah.
It does, and then by the end you have 30 kids surrounding 2 kids who are left.
It reminds me of those rock paper scissors contests. It's much more focused and quiet and tense, but it seems to have that soul to soul kind of connection feature about it.
Right. So exactly. So I think just using multiple ways of building community, little icebreakers are great in all languages, like you said, Ryan. Share Stein and Papier. Yeah, just making them feel more comfortable.
Great. I think that's all the questions we had from speaking. Let's jump into our random items.
Okay, I didn't know what to call this category, but they're some of my favorites. So Easter egg hunt. Everybody's got, well, maybe not everybody, but in my house, I celebrate Easter, and I've got a ridiculous amount, or you go to the dollar store if you don't celebrate Easter, little plastic eggs. And a colleague at my school a few years from, I don't remember what department, showed this to me. They take questions and they cut them up into little strips, and then they put them in the Easter eggs. Well, I've created an entire interpretive reading out of this just to make it, interpretives are deathly to the kids. Find the vocabulary, identify the main idea, find these details, and give me the text evidence. And the kids just want to check out as soon as I do something like that. So this has really worked, where you take the same questions, only you cut them up. And so then you can do it two ways. You can hide the Easter eggs around the room, depending on your size of your class, or you can just put in a basket in the front, and they're all different colors, so kids really don't know which ones they got or didn't get. And they can only take one egg at a time, and they work with a partner, and they have a blank sheet of paper, numbered. And so they have their interpretive reading, usually a newspaper article, excuse me, or an infographic. And then they are working just solely on this one piece of paper. So this one question, identify this detail, for instance, or this could be find this verb form, or whatever you want. And then they have to roll it up, put it back together. And some classes start running. And I never tell them to run, but they do, and they make it a race. You can't throw the eggs. You can't hide them from other kids. I mean, you learn to make up rules, but just another fun way to take a boring activity and engage it. All right, Play-Doh. I'm sorry if you're all rolling your eyes at me, but Play-Doh is it. Like, adults love Play-Doh, kids love Play-Doh. You put it on a table, I guarantee someone will grab it. I use it at all levels. Again, I had a college professor. Oh, I don't think your students will love this. And again, if you're looking at lower level, you can do fruits and vegetables in level 1, or you can do unification, in East Germany. It doesn't matter. The kids have to use more creativity to make it work. One thing I have been doing, which you can kind of see here, is after the kids work in their pairs and, hey, guess mine and guess mine, ratamal at their table, they then recreate their best one, and they write the answer on a little Post-it, leave it upside down, and we do a gallery walk. And then you get a choice of 30, and you get to see everybody's. And if you don't know it, you can look at the Post-it. So that's what I've been doing for interpretive. Oh my gosh, ready? These are, oh, red's not working, the bane of my existence. I don't know if my colleague is out there somewhere, but she and I share a classroom, and the ghost of our closet makes them turn on sometimes. And these buzzers, I can't stand, but the kids hate. I bring them out once a semester, even though they're going off now and then. And this is a total student generated day. They, in their groups, they have to, whatever we're doing, and maybe it's a summarize, I don't know, plot summary. They have to, I give them note cards or scrap paper, and in groups, they have to come up with the trivia cards. And then as you can see, they got their hands behind their back, they're up, they're moving, they're rotating all the cards, and I don't have to do anything except take an Advil after listening to those beeps over and over again. I brought them home to show you, and actually my kids and my husband have been playing with them every time they walk by. They're addictive. So just, again, a fun way to get a review going, right? Makerspace was hugely popular a few years ago, and for good reason. You're using garbage, you're using recycled materials, it doesn't cost anything, and you get to make a creative product out of it. So I use this for character analysis, and don't ask me anymore, this picture's old. I don't know what character he's showing in his little picture here, but he's smiling, he's proud of it. He then has to talk about the physical and the personality traits of the character, and then describe it to his partners. Why did you choose a heart? Why is there a, I don't know, a shiny glitter on top that represents the effervescence of the character? I don't know. They come up while they're working and doing the makerspace, they come up with their ideas, and then eventually it'll be a presentational speaking in a Flipgrid where they tell me very professionally why they put this together. sky's the limit. It just means whatever you see. A lot of it is just imagination. The Bauhaus picture on top with the kids wearing paper on their head, that was last year. I had just this class that could not memorize the dates and names and specific biographical information of Bauhaus members. And finally I said, all right, you have 7 minutes to take all the color paper and make yourself a Bauhaus hat. Because of course they're about color and form and geometric figures. Okay, good. Now that's your graphic organizer. Write whatever you want on it. If you need to, during practice, interpersonal, refer to it. So look at them. They're all wearing the silly hats. They were able to take it off, review, and they all did great on the interpersonal. But that was just a spur of the moment thing. Anything works. On the bottom, last year was the 100th anniversary of the gummy bear, if you were unfamiliar with that, Haribo. And we had a lot of gummy bear activities. One of them, use gummy bears to write a fairy tale. Well, if you can't identify, that is a little red gummy bear with about 8 yellow gummy bears made into long Rapunzel hair coming down. And the boy had written, Rapunzel was a good and happy person. She was in her tower. You know, it was a German one. We were coming up with a fun activity. So there you have it. Gummy bears, paper, you know, it's all your imagination. Okay, we're on to the digital, Ryan. Any other stuff before we go there?
Yeah, there's a lot with our random objects category. A lot of love for the buzzers, a lot of frustration as well. That's something I think I'll save for the end as sort of a meta question of, you know, dealing with differentiation, accommodations, you know, the folks that love it, love the sounds, but also there's, you know, students with autism that have a really hard time with sounds and lights and sensitivity to that. And there were a few folks asking about gallery walks, just wanting a quick refresher on what you mean by gallery walk and how that works.
Yeah, I use,
go over that again.
I'll just deal with gallery walk first. It's a loose term. There are an actual gallery walk where you would maybe have stations for posters or student work that you're either giving feedback to with Post-its, or maybe there's interpretive stations where you're answering questions. This gallery walk I just meant, so you have 30 different Play-Doh works of art, shall we say, with the little answer, and the kids, that one that they were doing, I believe, was testing their preterite form. They were learning a new verb form. So they took their vocab list with them, and then they had to guess the creativity. What is this conveying? What is the verb form? And then they would just talk and walk around the room, and I was mingling and making sure that they were understanding. So that's what I meant by that gallery walk.
Great. And with the buzzer and bells activity, do you kind of use that as like Family Feud? You know, it's the first to hit the buzzer as a winner. Gotcha.
Hands behind your back. The kids, you know, work it out with themselves. And to answer the question, yes, differentiation, student needs. That's what I talked about at the beginning. Like, you have to determine what is in your classroom, what needs, what supports, what works, what doesn't. And these are just ideas that I don't use for every class because of that, but depending on, where they work, you certainly can.
Wunderbar, thanks.
Wunderbar. All right, so like I promised at the end, these are my most fun digital games, I would say, from lockdown. I still use them, but I just found them during that time. So as you can see, the little boy there, well, he's not so little anymore, but he is, can everyone guess what verb he is guessing there or creating there? He's driving, right? So I'll show you how to make those happen. So the first one, I don't know, this is just a total throwaway. Tomorrow's Friday. Give them the last 5 minutes to test this out, because it really has no learning value other than vocabulary comprehension. But once in a while, I allow that. So all those languages on the bottom are available because this is a Google product. They're trying to up their, I don't know, their what do you call those little clip art things? So this is helping them somehow. But basically, you log in a quick draw, and the kids on their devices then will say, it'll say, Zeichne Zimmerpflanze, du hast dafür 19 Sekunden. So draw a plant, like an indoor plant, and then it tells you, oh, it looks like you're drawing toothpaste. Oh, this looks like a cucumber, until eventually, oh, you drew a plant, or in my case, I usually fail, and then you get your red beep, and then it starts over again. So again, it's A1 vocabulary words. They can quickly look it up if they don't know it, and maybe they learn a few vocab words. But end of the day, that would be a good one. Autodro Slam Pictionary sounds really cool. It you know, like Poetry Slam, you're working against each other sort of thing. This is another AI digital vocab from Google. If you go to autodraw.com, you can create images that either stay like this in this representation. This was another Rapunzel. We did a lot of fairy tales. The prince is falling into the thorny bushes where he gets his eyes blinded. So that's what this boy was drawing. But you'd also have the beauty of it guesses your image, so you can import that, and then you can create entire scenes. And if you're working online, you have an open Google slide, and you can import these images, and kids get guess. So there's a lot to work with there. The GIF charades was definitely the hit of lockdown. So as you can see, I had these samples from lockdown I grabbed. You create a shared Google Drive, Google Slides, I'm sorry. And then I was like .co, and it literally takes a picture of you doing whatever. And as you can guess, the boy was combing his mother's hair. These were all verbs again. I guess he's calling, he's leaving. And then the kids, I did this in the classroom, and the kids just walked around with their Chromebooks and had to guess each other. So whatever. And mrspark.org/free. If you don't know this site, you should totally go there tonight and get lost. She was my savior during our lockdown. Tons of free templates for games online using Google products. Fantastic. And so she took this and made it fancy. So I found this again after I found the GIF thing. So this is her template. Das Maisfeld, the cornfield, is up top. That was the word the boy chose. And he had to write a definition. He had to explain it. And then he did his GIF on the right. So this is a little more of a Freyer model, I would say. So he has a University of Iowa hoodie, and Iowa is mostly cornfields, was his explanation. And again, they're all creative, and they're doing things, and the kids love it, right? Because they're showing their creativity to one another. Emoji quotes, again, still in use. Kids love emojis. And I'm terrible at guessing these, but they love to use them. So this was another, I used all fairy tale examples. I do teach more than fairy tales, people. But this was, as you can tell on the bottom, Hansel and Gretel, right? Hansel pushed the woman into the fire, I'm guessing is that one. And but the specific about this, they had the story. They had to identify the exact sentence. So this was very specific in learning the quotes and the storyline. So it's great for deeper reading and close reading. 7-second challenge. I'm sure if I'm using that image up there, but it's on your phone, I'm guessing an app. Someone showed me, I don't know. And so I adapted it. A colleague was telling me about this, and I took a Google slide, and you got your 7-second timer. And it can be for any level. So, and I show it at the front, and the kids have to face off each other, or they give them the Google slideshow in Google Classroom, and they can go against each other in groups. All it is taking the information they're supposed to memorize and gamifying it. So for German 1, for instance, you have 7 seconds, count from 0 to 10. 7 seconds, say the weekdays. And it's the information that they would like, but you're gamifying it. Whew, and I think we made it, Ryan. There's another screenshot of the book that I would recommend. And those are my ideas for making class a little more lively.
One thing Mauricio brought up was about back to the speaking category with the inside outside circles. So I'm guessing Mauricio is imagining like, a smaller circle in the middle and a larger circle on the outside, and they're sort of rotating and asking questions each time. That could be an icebreaker. That could be, a question. Have you used that, or do you have any experience with that, Heidi?
Speaking circles. I forgot the German. It's the same as a gasket. Well, whatever. If you have a huge group, sometimes you break it up into 4. So you have two different groups, smaller. Where are you? Kugelauger, thank you. Who's ever just, I see that in
There you
the
go.
chat. A lot going on in my brain right now. Anyway, it's fantastic because then everybody gets a different partner and they're not just attached with their one. And yes, I'm always moving and listening, and then you have to give it, feedback in between would be helpful. Any vocab words that you don't know? Oh, I love that so-and-so said this. And oh yeah, and give a little support to those shy kids that you were talking about too. Give them a little boost, make them want to talk more.
Absolutely. And I guess that seems to be one of the bigger conversations that people are interested in is the differentiating to different levels, different abilities, different interests, being able to make sure everyone's included. We can all imagine students, and we've met students who are just kind of anti-games or anti-social or just have a certain disposition in a different direction than the majority, and that's okay. What are your kind of approaches to that, Heidi? How do you kind of get everyone in the fold? And I'm sure, like you said, it's from day one, setting up the class culture, that it's welcoming, that everyone feels at home, but any other kind of tips or tricks in that regard?
Right. And I know I'm in a special category as a German teacher. I have another colleague, but some years I teach the kids all 4 years. So we really have a special bond and we feel comfortable with one another. I think actually I am not a super outgoing person in large groups. This is like a terrifying thing if we were all in one room together. So I acknowledge, right? There are kids who don't. And so that's why I arrange my classroom. Like I said, I don't do all group. Everybody works in smaller groups, so they have a safe place to show their voice. Online resources are great for sharing with Pear Deck or Google Slides, where it's not anonymity by any means, but they're not out there giving a presentation. Presentations, I do not have kids stand in front of the class and talk to their peers. I do everything in groups of 3 to 4. So the kids actually present instead of once to 30 kids. We have multiple rounds going simultaneously, getting specific peer feedback from 3 kids who are eagerly listening because they're writing down the feedback. And then they have to rotate. So maybe they'll give it 5 times over two days, getting lots of feedback and value and feel validated. So little strategies
Definitely.
like that. Yeah.
I love it. Sabrina, double check my work here. Are we doing well in the Q&A and covering everyone's questions?
Yes, of course. We still have, I think, about 1 or 2 pending questions.
Okay, let's see here. Yeah, we've managed with accommodations and special needs. Yeah, and how to include them. Thanks for checking with that, Heidi. And any advice for digital classes that have one-on-one with student? Okay, so that's another one, whether you're in person or digital, if you're kind of in a one-on-one or maybe tutoring setting, how do you imagine that working with, setting up the culture with your single student,
So
with setting up games?
So just to clarify, you're one teacher tutoring one person?
That's what it sounds like, yeah.
Yeah. And that, well, you better be very excited. No, joking. That's tough. And that has a whole different realm because now they don't have another person to practice with. They just have you, and you need to, obviously you don't want to use poor language skills to mimic a new learner. You have me stumped. I don't know. I would have to think about that. If you want to leave your email in the chat directly to Ryan or reach out, I'd have to think of some strategies. Yeah. Because yes, I don't know. I haven't tutored in a while.
Yeah, and it's a different setting, isn't it? We've all been kind of the ringleader in front of a whole classroom, and that is a very different vibe from, sitting down with one student, whether you're digital or whether you're side by side in a class. But I imagine, kind of having that fun mentality, having that classroom management set up from the beginning and being able to engage in that fun and engaging way is really important, and that can contribute to that one-on-one tutoring setting too.
Okay, well, I'm happy to research it if you want to.
Great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let me know how to reach people.
And there's one more question. What about native speakers? I'm just going to see if we can get a little more clarification from Luz Maria. So you're and Heidi, if you can if you have any ideas about, with native speakers of German that you've worked with in the past, that might be a good place to start. But
Well,
I'm imagining,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, is your concern that they're not challenging enough? Because a lot of these games are simply adaptations from real world. So I would say if you're working with native speakers, then use the native products. For instance, you can use the advanced real Pictionary game. I would assume that the words are far and above than the easy ones that I'm using with my, A2 level students. But definitely so when I was talking a lot about the elementary school activities and resources that I found, then simply look for ones that are available for the age group that you're working with. So it's all just adapting it, yeah. But adults, if you're talking about adult learners, they want to get out and have some fun too. They are learning a language to communicate and not just to sit down and conjugate verbs. That's how I learned, years ago, but I would have much rather been up and talking to people.
I remember some of the best teachers in grad school were using Play-Doh, were having us do gallery walks. Like, all these things come up at every level. And I think it's just one of those hallmarks of great teaching. And I think we're kind of coming to a close. We didn't want to go past an hour 15, so we're right about that hour 10 mark. But Heidi, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's give her a round of applause for wherever we're tuning in from. And Sabrina, thanks for helping host here. And it's just been a pleasure, y'all. Thank you for coming. And just a quick plug for our upcoming webinar on the 23rd of February. So that's in a week. We're going to be talking teaching grammar communicatively and in context. So that's in a week from now. And I'll share the link here in the chat, which can kind of be your exit ticket, if you will. If you look in the chat, there's cletwl.com/teacher-training. Or if you just go to our homepage and look at teacher training, that's where we've got all of our webinars past. So including this one in a week, by the time that next webinar comes up, you'll be able to see this one and future webinars that are coming up with all the topics and experts that are able to contribute to the conversation. So thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Sabrina. Thank you, everyone who joined us.